What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here, going to be talking about Bo Nickal's next fight against Donovan, and I'm very excited for it. It's Dana White's Contender Series 2022, Week 10, so in about 6 weeks time or so, and this is a very logical next step up for Bo Nickal, which I will be talking about later. But first, I'm really sorry, audio difficulties again. I'm quite renowned for having audio difficulties in my videos. I don't know what's going on. I've got like a pretty fancy studio interface sort of set up, and I'm pretty happy with it, but for some reason it's playing up, but that's not the point. So Bo Nickal, I'm really used to calling him Bo Nickal because I thought that's how it was pronounced. It's not. Someone might say Bo Nickal a couple of times in the video, but Bo Nickal, the UFC's obviously signed him to a developmental contract, and to be honest, the UFC's pretty lucky that Bo signed that contract, because one FC or Bellator really could have swooped in, offered Bo Nickal a lot of money, and put him on the main card of their card and got a lot of views and a lot of attention. But yeah, UFC's got pretty lucky with that one, and I think it was actually low-key a risky move not signing him directly to the UFC, because Bellator or PFL, Bellator, one FC could have swooped in and taken him, man. But yeah, that's not really the point. I think that this next fight is a really good step up in competition. Donovan Beard is not a joke at all. You know, his next fight is going to be taking place obviously against Donovan Beard, but he's only 2-0, but he's got crazy wrestling credentials. I believe he trialed for the Olympics and barely didn't get into the Olympic wrestling team, so now he's transitioned to MMA. But he's been in MMA and in the MMA scene for years now. You know, like he was the guy that a lot of guys that are training for a big camp would bring in to train wrestling against, and he made his amateur debut about a year ago, but he's definitely been training MMA for longer than that, because there's no doubt when he got called into this person's camp he's like, look, I'll show you some wrestling stuff, but can you show me striking in exchange, or jiu-jitsu in exchange, you know? And he's been fighting against like Gordon Ryan in grappling, Elliot Kelly and Oliver Tarza. I don't really know who they are, but they're obviously probably pretty good grapplers, and he fought to a draw with those in the jiu-jitsu. But I was really impressed against his fight against Zach Borrego. He was fast. Bo Nickal is fast. And yeah, the way that he kind of transitioned to that rear naked choke from the position that he is in, from the sprawl that he is in, was insane. But yeah, Zach Borrego, not the greatest grappler in the world. He's fighting Donovan Beard. Truth be told, I don't know a lot about Donovan Beard, but I do know about Miles Lee. And Donovan Beard choked out Miles Lee, and Miles Lee's a hot prospect because he's actually got a win over Cedric Dumas in the amateur scene, who is going to be fighting later on this year in Dana White's Contender Series, I think in only about a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, so Donovan Beard, let's talk about his opponent. He's pretty good, you know, he's the Cage Fury FC middleweight champion, but one thing that does stand out to me quite a bit is that he's a former welterweight, so he's going to be a little bit undersized. Bo Nickal's he's pretty big. He's not the biggest middleweight in the world, but he is pretty big, and I think he's going to be bigger than Donovan Beard in this matchup. He's obviously going to have the wrestling advantage. He'll probably have the power advantage as well. But yeah, Donovan Beard, former welterweight, moved up to middleweight in his second to last fight, so he's only been a middleweight for, what's that, about 3 or 4 months now, making a pretty quick turnaround as well. And yeah, I think that Donovan Beard's a really logical next step up for Bo Nickal. I do think Bo Nickal wins the fight. I don't think it's going to be as easy as he did against Zach Borrego. If he does beat Donovan Beard super easily, we have a problem on our hands, because Donovan Beard's no joke. Cage Fury FC middleweight champion. He wins on a pretty good win streak against guys that weren't super great, but you know, he come back, he beat Miles Lee, undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a pro, beat Tracy Hardy, who was 3-1 at the time as well. That's still not too bad of a win earlier on into your career. And if I feel like this is a very smart choice as well, because if you think about it, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of inexperienced guys on the regional scene that will take on a guy like Bo Nickal. Like, it's like you know, people can talk about Zachary Borrego and how he's 3-3 as an amateur, this and that, but how many guys that are 2-0, 3-0 and developing as a professional are going to take on Bo Nickal? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be pretty hard to find a guy that will do that. So shout out to Zachary Borrego for taking the opportunity. He didn't really look great. Bo Nickal did look amazing in that fight, to be fair, but it's still a tribute to Borrego taking the fight as well. Donovan Beard, shout out to him too. I'm sure a lot of people were probably offered this fight, and a lot of people probably turned it down. But I think Bo Nickal, he wins the fight, probably finishes it in the first round, and there's actually an opponent that I have lined up for Bo Nickal's debut. It might be too much too soon, but I think that if Bo Nickal is talking about being a top 15 fighter already and fighting all these top guys, if you want to throw him to the wolves, you give him this guy. But I feel like if you want like a logical step, I would have said like give him Tresean Gore as his debut, because Tresean's 3-2, but he's fighting Josh Fremd. That was another guy I was thinking of. Maybe you give Bo Nickal Josh Fremd as his debut and test him there. Someone like that, or even like Julian Marquez could be awesome because he's a power puncher. See how he deals with that. But I've got a guy, man. I've got the guy that beat Josh Fremd in his last fight. I've got Anthony Hernandez. I think this is a pretty logical debut for Bo Nickal. It's a winnable matchup. It's actually a very winnable matchup for Hernandez as well, potentially. He's a really good jiu-jitsu fighter. He's a good striker as well, and he's got cardio for days. So Anthony Hernandez is going to be able to put up with the pace that Bo Nickal puts him on. And if Bo Nickal doesn't finish Hernandez in the first or second round, yeah, man, we could see something interesting happen. So I think Anthony Hernandez is a pretty logical jump up in competition after this fight. But if you don't want to throw him against the wolves, you don't give him Anthony Hernandez. But if you really want to test him, if you want to throw him against the wolves, you give him Fluffy Hernandez. You know, obviously Fluffy Hernandez does have a fight coming up, but it is 10 days before the fight against Donovan, and I do think that he's going to beat Marc-Andre Barriault. I do think he's going to win a decision in that matchup here. Is kind of what I'm leaning right now. Just using the grappling, maybe even a submission at one point. But yeah, I think Bo Nickal versus Anthony Hernandez is a very good fight for potentially maybe not in the UFC debut, maybe the second fight in the UFC. But yeah, they're going to make a lot of money out of Bo Nickal's name for sure. I think I don't think he would have signed like a massive like 100 for 100 contract like Bellator or PFL or ONE FC would have been offering him, you know. So I feel like, hey, they're getting Bo Nickal for cheap right now, Bo Nickal for cheap, and yeah, I think that Bo Nickal wins, but it's going to be a good fight. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. This is almost a 7-minute video. I don't know how it ended up being that long. Thank you if you made it this far. I'll see you tomorrow because I'm dropping my UFC full card preview and predictions for UFC 278 tomorrow. Looking forward to that card. I am picking Leon Edwards as an underdog. I like him in that matchup. I've got so many reasons why. In fact, I might even write like a list on a notepad on why I think Leon Edwards wins, so I don't ramble too much like I did in my early picks. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you guys very much for watching if you made it this far.